Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. I'm Peter Loshak. Today is Thursday, August 3rd, and we are talking right now with Andreas Hale. Of course, Andreas is our regular MMA and boxing expert odds analyst. We're going to be talking about UFC Fight Night 114 that goes this weekend in Mexico City, high altitude there. And Andreas Hale, thanks for being back with us. We had a scheduling conflict for UFC 214, so we couldn't talk about that one, but I wound up going 4-0 in my picks on UFC 214, and then before that, for UFC Fight Night 113, you gave a great call on Felder inside the distance, just like a 4.5 to 1 underdog. So we've been doing pretty well overall in our recent MMA picks here in our calls together.
Yeah, we have, man. I hope people have been listening and made a little bit of money making those picks.
Yeah, absolutely. And how did you do in UFC 214? Did you have any big winners or losers in that one?
I was pretty solid on 214. I mean, obviously, I told a lot of people to stay away from John Jones. I thought he was going to win, but the line, I just didn't like it. Woodley winning by decision. What else? I mean, I was pretty strong on that card. I mean, obviously, stay away from Cyborg Everger, but I think I was 4-0. There was one fight I might have missed, but I was pretty solid.
See, the Cyborg pick was one of my great calls. I like the over 1.5 in that one, and when I gave it, it was plus 210, and it wound up, after I gave that pick, it wound up going all the way up to almost close to plus 300, which blew my mind. Wow. And of course, we saw how that turned out. And the good news here is Andreas Hale for UFC Fight Night 114. I think I'm seeing a bunch of picks that I'm liking quite a bit on this card. It's an interesting card, some interesting fights, and sometimes these interesting cards don't have a lot of betting value. This one, though, I think I'm seeing a lot of picks that I'm kind of liking. We'll see if you agree with me. And one of them is in the main event, which of course is Sergio Pettis against Moreno. Two fighters jockeying for a UFC flyweight title shot. And you know, of course, this is a striker versus grappler. Moreno, a great submission artist, but I'm thinking that this fight is more likely than not to go over the 2.5 rounds. I'm not sure if it's going to go the full 5 rounds or not, so I wouldn't want to take it going the distance, although I wouldn't at all be surprised if it does go the distance and whoever wins by decision. But at just 2.5 rounds, minus 160, you know, I think Pettis is going to be wary of getting subbed early by Moreno. Moreno, of course, is going to be, careful about getting taken out early by Pettis. I'm liking over 2.5 rounds at minus 160. What do you think about that one?
I got to agree with you there, Peter. I mean, you look at this card. I mean, look at these two fighters. Sergio Pettis hasn't stopped anybody since dropping down the flyweight. Brandon Moreno does stop fighters, but I think Pettis is very competent on the ground. Moreno's strength here is on the ground game, obviously. 2.5 rounds is not that long for Pettis to survive this fight. But yeah, obviously deeper into the fight, it'll get interesting to see how their conditioning is. But I'm with you on this one. I like the over.
Yeah, I'm liking the over. The only issue is just if Moreno gets a sub early, you know, and Pettis has struggled against better competition, and Moreno definitely counts as that in this fight. And you know, despite Pettis' sort of name, Moreno is a significant favorite here at minus 170. Does those odds seem to be disrespecting Pettis a little bit in your mind, or is that are those odds appropriate?
No, I think they're appropriate. I mean, Moreno came in this division like a bat out of hell. He's been undefeated. He's kind of ran through a lot of the competition. And, you know, he had a split decision with Ryan Benoit. But aside from that, he's been pretty dominant. Pettis, on the other hand, he came down to flyweight, got knocked out by Benoit, and won 3 in a row against much lesser competition. Moreno is just a frantic pace fighter. He was a welcome surprise in the division. So this all makes sense to me why he's a significant favorite.
Okay. And do you think there's an edge, a betting edge on either side here?
Not necessarily. I mean, I'd say that Moreno's going to win this fight. I just hate that it's minus 170. I would have liked it a little bit more if it was a little bit lower. But they're giving him the proper respect here, so I'd probably stay away from betting on Moreno straight up to win this fight.
I agree with you, Andreas Hale. I'm liking the over 2.5 rounds at minus 160. And then there's one other bet that I'm really liking, as well as a bunch of others that I'm liking a little bit less. Let's get to the second pick that I'm really liking, and it does involve Rashad Evans. Of course, this might be Evans' last stand. He has taken a significant step down in terms of his skill set and his quickness and all of that. You know, still a decent fighter though, and I'm sure that Alvey is going to give him some respect here. Alvey, of course, is the favorite right now. Minus 140. My take on this one, this fight very, very likely goes the distance. So I like either the over 2.5 rounds at minus 175 or just the fight going the distance at minus 155. Don't really see a finish here by either fighter, even though Alvey, of course, is a great finisher. I don't think that he's going to, I think Evans has enough to make this one go the distance, which is probably what Evans is going to be looking to do here. My guess is that Alvey by decision might also be a good bet, but more than that, I just like the fight going the distance. I think there's no way this fight ends inside 3 rounds. Do you agree with that or disagree with that?
No, I agree with that also. And the reason why is Rashad Evans is a shell of his former self. And, he's older now, and that means he'll probably resort back to his wrestling. If that happens, because Sam Alvey's a pretty good striker, we're going to see a lot of, grounded fighters here. We're going to see a lot of mat work. We might see a lot of dirty boxing, but nothing devastating here. And Rashad isn't a guy who likely is to get finished. So, Sam Alvey is the same. These are both two very strong chin fighters. So, I definitely see this fight going the distance, and I like the odds as it's going the full 3 rounds.
Yeah, at -155. Also, Alvey is a southpaw, and we've seen Evans in the past just kind of not quite know what to do with southpaw. So that makes me think that that Evans is going to be even more cautious here. I love that one. The fight goes the distance at -155. And as far as who's likely to win this one, Alvey again is the favorite, and Alvey by decision is actually +260, and I think that might be a great bet as well. Or do you think that Evans as an underdog here is getting a little bit disrespected?
He is getting a little disrespected. However, that line, I'll have to take Sam Alvey because, again, I don't see the explosiveness out of Rashad. I mean, this is a man who's really turned old over the past couple of years. He doesn't look as fast, as sharp. Not to say that he can't win this fight, but chances are with that line, I'm looking towards Sam Alvey to win this by decision.
Yeah, I mean, this fight kind of reminds me of like Anderson Silva's recent fights, which I also love to go the distance, and those cash for me as well. And I'm just thinking, I'm having a little bit of a hard time figuring out exactly what Evans's odds of winning here are. Would you take Evans at +120 or Alvey at -140?
If he put a gun to my head, I'd probably take Evans at +120.
You would, huh?
The only reason why is because of the wrestling. I think he has to go back to his roots of wrestling. If he wants to stand there and strike, he's not going to win this fight. He's a little bit too slow and a little gun shy these days. But if he resorts to his wrestling, he could ground out and win this fight. But that's only because he's the underdog, and I find value there much more than Alvey being a -160.
Right, and that's why I was thinking that Alvey by decision at +260 might be a great bet.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you look at that line. I don't understand how Sam Alvey wins this fight any other way.
Right.
I can't see him knocking out Rashad. So that +260, you have to give that one to me. I love it.
All right, so those are 2 fights that I think I have a pretty good edge on. We'll talk about some of the others because I think I'm seeing some picks I'm liking in the others as well. Is there anything that's caught your eye that you'd like to share with us, Andreas?
Yeah, I'm really looking at this Niko Price-Alan Jouban fight because Niko Price is undefeated. His last fight, even though he scored a knockout, it was overturned because he was he tested positive for marijuana. But Price has been pretty devastating. His hands are heavy. And Alan Jouban, he's a tough fighter, but he struggled lately. I think he's like 2-4 or something in his last 6 fights. So I can't, he lost to Gunnar Nelson in his last fight. I don't understand why Price is such a big underdog. So I'm going to go with Niko Price here. I haven't even looked at the line on this ending inside of the distance, but I'm taking Price by knockout. The guy's got heavy hands. He's been hurting people.
Yep, you took the words right out of my mouth. That was the other fight that I was going to mention right after the Rashad Evans fight. I completely agree. When I saw these lines, it didn't make sense to me. I mean, Niko Price is a he's a physical beast, and he's a dangerous fighter at +140. I definitely like that one. And Price inside the distance is at +205. I mean, I do think that if the fight goes the distance, that probably means that Jouban has the edge. So you could even do one of those hedges that I sometimes like to do. Jouban by decision at +263, hedged with Price inside the distance at +205. But I also just think that Price at +140 is a great bet on its own. Why do you think that the market is disrespecting him here? Is there something we're not seeing?
Well, I think what happens is a lot of people look at Jouban's experience, and he's been around for a long time.
Sure.
Niko Price hasn't really faced a top guy. But Jouban has struggled against top guys, which I think a lot of people forget. Yeah, he's faced elite competition, but when you lose to them, it's not really the same thing. Young lions, young up-and-coming fighters, you look at guys like the Mike Perrys who come from other organizations with great knockout streaks and undefeated records, they tend to kind of fare well in the UFC when they make their debut. So I think people are just overlooking Price because he doesn't have the name recognition of Alan Jouban, but that doesn't mean he's not going to win this fight. That's why I think Price is going to win.
And I think he might have some name recognition very, very soon. And this is one of his. This is his next fight, his next step up. I love Price here at +140 and inside the distance at +205. And then let's talk about the co-main event: Alexa Grasso against Marcos. And of course, Grasso was a very hyped up and coming fighter, coming off of a disappointing loss by unanimous decision. Marcos got a surprising win in her last fight, and she's also been alternating wins and losses. So if that pattern maintains, then Marcos is set up for a loss here, and Grasso also, is is from Mexico, so presumably she will have the home country edge and maybe be a little bit more acclimated to the thin air here. I'm thinking that maybe Grasso to bounce back at -160 has some value. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Randa Marcos is nothing terribly impressive, and she's not very dangerous. The fight with Felice Herrig, you look at Grasso's fight there. Felice has come a long way. She got a lot better, and that was like her first of her nice little win streak that she put together. Grasso was just entering the UFC. The octagon jitters are a real thing. Some people struggle with them, and I think she did. I think she goes back to her roots here. Randa Marcos is not a devastating striker. She doesn't have an excellent ground game. Grasso's a great wrestler, and she has solid hands. So I think this is going to be a pretty easy victory for Alexa Grasso.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. And do you think it goes a distance, or do you think she gets a knockout here? Because the market is saying this is very likely to go the distance. The over 2.5 rounds is -300, and I kind of agree with that. My sense is that it's more likely than not to be Grasso by decision, and Grasso by decision is actually +117. Grasso just to win is -160. So I'm thinking maybe by decision at +17 has a little bit more value. What do you think? You think a finish by Grasso is actually a likelihood?
I don't think a finish is a likelihood. I mean, Randa is pretty tough. She takes a lot of strikes, and she keeps coming at you. But in this type of fight, I think Alexa Grasso is actually going to look to secure the win and take as little risk as possible. So I'm figuring that she'll go the distance here and just secure the victory, because what you got to do is you got to get the monkey off your back and get a W in the UFC. Yep. So that's what she'll do. No risk taken, no knockout. This will go the distance, and Grasso should win this pretty convincingly.
That's what I'm thinking as well. And then there's another fight on the card that I'm thinking also has good value, again with a prop, and that's Martin Bravo's next fight, right? Bravo is he's going up against Bandone, who's a late replacement. He's making his promotional debut here, and all 5 of his wins on his current five-fight winning streak came by stoppage, so maybe just betting on this fight to not go the distance might have some value. But I'm thinking that Bravo is just too talented here. He's a -330 favorite just to win the fight, but inside the distance, Bravo's actually +145. Fight not going the distance is -115, and Bravo to win inside the distance is +145. I'm thinking that has great value. I think I'd much prefer that over just taking Bravo to win at -330. What do you think, Andreas?
Yeah, this is one of those fights where you look at both of these guys, you say, this isn't going to go the distance. Probably not. There's not too much value otherwise. So you got 2 guys who like to finish people, who go in there. I don't think either of them is going to be cautious. Bandone, being his debut, I think he's going to try to make a statement that might cost him. So that being said, I think Martin Bravo should be the favorite here. He should be an inexplicable favorite. I mean, even -330 is kind of a little low. But anything can happen. So I think one way or another, this fight ends inside of 3 rounds. Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. I'm just trying to figure out how much of a chance Bandone actually has of winning. He is tall. He is going to have a length advantage over Bravo, a talent disadvantage. But do you think that the height and reach advantage that Bandone will have here is going to be a key factor, or not matter that much?
I don't think it's going to matter that much. I think I've seen a little bit of tape on him, and it doesn't look like he uses it all that well. So I don't think height and reach is going to be a big deal here. It's really just about experience and technique, and I think Bravo has the edges in both there. As long as he doesn't take Bandone for granted and then he gets caught by something. But again, I think one of these guys are going to go to sleep in this fight.
Yeah, so would you rather have Bravo inside the distance at +145 or just the fight not going the distance at -115?
I'm going to take Bravo inside the distance. Yeah, I think Bandone, he's kind of in over his head being a late replacement. I mean, sometimes these guys win, but I don't think this is going to be his night.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. And then there's the 6th fight on the main card is the Perez fight with a very even odds. Do you have anything to say about that one, or is that a throw out for you?
That's a throw out for me. I'll stay away from that one.
Okay, so let's finalize our picks here. I'm liking all the picks that we've given here, Andreas Hale. Sounds like we're in complete agreement here, lockstep agreement. I'm giving my official picks as Pettis Moreno over 2.5 rounds at -160. I'm definitely going to take Grasso by decision as an official pick at +117. Also a Nico Price. I guess I'll give him inside the distance at +205, and then Bravo also inside the distance at +145, and then Lovin Evans and Alvey, that one going the distance at -155, and also Alvey by decision at +260. So I think that's 6 picks that I've given here, Andreas Hale. Which of those do you like the best?
The one I like the best is Nico Price. Like I said, I really like the kid. I think he's got great hands, and I think you're going to do well if you bet him and you bet the under for him to finish this fight, because I just think he has too many weapons here.
Yeah, all right. Price inside the distance at plus 205. Are there any of my picks that you don't like so much?
No, this is, Peter, we do this a lot, and there's something I disagree with, but I think we're locked in here, because these are all great picks.
Absolutely. Great call, Andreas Hale. I'll talk to you again very soon.
All right, take it easy.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.